Wonderful day, everyone. Welcome to the third week of Fundamentals of Health Science 2. A new topic will be discussed pertaining to body organization. At the end of this session, you will be able to sequence the levels of biological organization in order from least to most complex. You will be able to understand the hierarchical structure and organization of the human body in terms of body systems, organs, and tissues. Third, appreciate the creation of the human body and take part in the preservation of life. Fourth, describe the levels of organization of the body and describe the major characteristics of each level. And of course, identify common diseases that affect the major organs of the body and their treatment. So, before we begin to study the different structures and functions of the human body, it is helpful to consider its basic architecture, and that is how its smallest parts are assembled into larger structure. It is convenient to consider the structures of the body in terms of fundamental levels of organization that increase in complexity. So we have the subatomic particles, the atoms, the molecules, the organelles, the cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, and of course, the organism. So many people have compared the human body to a machine. So think about some common machines such as drills and washing machines. So each machine consists of many parts and each part does a specific job. Yet all parts work together to perform an overall function. The human body is like a machine in all these ways. So in fact, it may be the most fantastic machine on earth, as you will discover when you learn more about it in this and the remaining topics of this session. So let's have an overview of the levels of body organization.
Levels of organization of body structure and function. How are body parts organized and how do they work so well together? In order to understand the human body and anatomy, it's good to break things down into levels. In this video, we're going to look at the 7 levels of organization of body structure and function. The first level is the chemical level, and it starts with atoms, which make up every material thing in the universe, including our bodies. Atoms can bond together to form molecules, which are larger chemical groupings, and molecules can combine with other molecules and more atoms to form macromolecules. The next level of organization in the body is the organelle level. Organelles are made up of chemical groupings, and they are tiny organ-like things that are in cells. Organelles have specific functions in cells, and they cannot live outside of cells. And without organelles, cells cannot survive. The cellular level is next. Cells are the smallest unit in the body that shows the basic characteristics of life. It's estimated that the body has around 100 trillion cells, and each cell is made up of a membrane, a nucleus, and a cytoplasm that houses the organelles that are required for the cell to function properly. There are many different types of cells in the body that perform different functions in the body. The next level is the tissue level. Tissue is a group of similar cells that have developed from the same part of the embryo and all perform a certain function. Tissue cells are surrounded by the matrix or non-living intracellular substances. There are 4 major types of tissue in the body: connective tissue, muscle tissue, nervous tissue, and epithelial tissue. Next up is the organ level. Organs are made up of different kinds of tissues that together can perform different functions in the body. For example, the liver, which is an organ located in the abdominal region of the body, stores some vitamins and minerals, stores glycogen, which is a stored form of energy, helps to destroy old red blood cells, and helps to detoxify the blood to get rid of harmful substances. The next level of organization in the body is the system level. Systems are comprised of organs that, by working together, can perform more complex types of functions in the body. There are 11 major systems in the body. Many times systems work together to accomplish different needs of the body, such as the respiratory system takes oxygen in, and the cardiovascular system transports the oxygen to various parts of the body. The organism level is the last level. The overall human organism is made up of all the previous levels we just covered. And that be the levels of organization of body structure and function.
All right. So each level of organization has two characteristics you should remember. So first, each level has properties that cannot be predicted using only the rules that apply to the level below it. So an easy to understand example would be to look at the population level of organization, which if it was shown would be immediately below the organismal level in this figure. So if you were asked as an individual organism, what is your birth rate? So how would you answer? So you would not give a serious answer because you are only born once. So the concept of birth rate makes no sense. However, if the same question was asked about the birth rate of your class or your town, in other words, a population to which you belong, a serious answer can be given. So birth rate is one of the many emergent properties of populations. Each level of organization has emergent properties that not found as what I have mentioned. So it is a rule that each level that create predictability in the entities at that level. Because of their predictable behavior, they can be used as building blocks for the higher levels of organization. So it is organized relationships among these building blocks that give rise to emergent properties at a higher level. So here is an overview of the major or the levels of organization. The smallest level is the chemical, followed by organelle, the cellular, the tissue, the organ, system, and organism. So let's discuss this level one by one. First is the chemical level. So all matter in the universe is composed of one or more unique pure substance called the elements. So if you are familiar or already of this one, examples are the hydrogen, the oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, calcium, and iron. And when we say chemical level, this is the simplest level within the structural hierarchy. So the chemical level includes the tiniest building blocks of matter, which are the atoms. Again, these are the tiniest building blocks of matter, which combine to form molecules like in water, which we have the hydrogen and oxygen, or the H2O for the water. So in turn, molecules combine to form organelles, so the internal organs of a cell. So what does atom meant by? So when we say atom, these are the smallest unit of any of these pure substances or elements. And it is made up of subatomic particles such as proton. And this is a subatomic particle found in the nucleus of every atom. So the particle has a positive electrical charge and equal and opposite to that of the electron. And when we say electron, are the negatively charged particles of atoms. So together, all the electrons of an atom create a negative charge that balance the positive charge of the protons in the atomic nucleus. And of course, we have the neutron. So it is a subatomic particle found in the nucleus of every atom except that of simple hydrogen. Next, for the organelle level, so any of the specialized structure within a cell that perform specific function. So I will not discuss this very detailed because this is already a topic from your general biology subject. So just an overview of what are these organelle. We have the nucleus, which is the control center that holds the DNA. We have the ribosome, builds protein. We have the smooth ER, or smooth endoplasmic reticulum, that builds lipids or the fats. We have the rough ER, folds the protein. We have the Golgi body that sends packages to areas outside the cell. We have the vacuole, storage for food and water. The lysosome breaks down waste. The mitochondria, which is the power or produces energy. And of course, the chloroplast for photosynthesis. So that's for the organelle level. Next, cellular level. So a cellular or a cell is the smallest independently functioning unit of a living organism. Even a bacteria, which are extremely small, independently living organism, have a cellular structure. So each bacterium is a single cell, and all living structures of human anatomy contain cells, and almost all functions of human physiology are performed in cells and are initiated by cells. So cellular level is made up of smallest unit living matter called the cells. And individual cells may have some common functions but vary widely in size and shape. And each type of cells carries out a set of unique tasks within the human body. So the function of cell to carry out the processes that keep the organism alive. So we have it grows, it reproduces, it removes waste and release energy. Such as human, we have cells inside our body. So as we grow older, our height, our body grows. We reproduce, we multiplicate, remove waste through feces, sweat, and the like. And of course, we release energy. So we have here some examples of cells. For stem cells, sub-examples are the embryonic stem cells and adult stem cells. Let's discuss this one by one as we go along on the next slides. We have the RBC or erythrocytes. We have the WBC or the leukocytes, platelets or the thrombocytes, the nerve cells or the neurons, neuronal cells, muscle cells. Types, we have the skeletal, cardiac and smooth, the cartilage cells or the chondrocytes. We have the bone cells, the osteoblasts, osteoclasts, osteocytes, and the linings of cells. Skin cells, we have the keratinocytes, the melanocytes, Merkel cells, and Langerhans cells. We have also the endothelial or the lining of the blood vessels, epithelial cells, the lining of the body cavities, then the fat cells or white adipocytes and the brown adipocytes. The sex cells, we have the spermatozoa and the ova. So let's take a look the figure of these types of cells inside our body. And let's discuss this one per cell for you to familiarize the cells inside our body. So first is the stem cell. So it is an undifferentiated cell of a multicellular organism which is capable of giving rise to indefinitely more cells of the same type and from which certain other kinds of cell arise by differentiation. They also have the ability to repair damaged cells. So stem cells, as what presented on the previous slide, it is subdivided into two main form. We have the embryonic and we have the stem cell. So embryonic stem cells are used in research today, come from unused embryos. So I believe you are familiar already of the term embryos, resulting from an in vitro fertilization. I believe you have heard already of that word, in vitro fertilization, that produces and that are donated to science. So these embryonic cells are pluripotent. So what does pluripotent means? So it means that they can turn into a more one type of cell. Next, we have the adult stem cells or the stem cells. We have the adult stem cell. Okay, so one type comes from fully developed tissues like the brain, skin, and bone marrow. So there are small numbers of stem cells in these tissues, and they are more likely to generate only certain types of cells. Example, a stem cell derived from liver, which only generate more liver cells. So the second type is induced pluripotent stem cell. So let me just write this down. So types of the adult stem cell, we have the pluripotent stem cell, and the other one is fully developed tissues. Again, for the fully developed tissues, such as the brain, the skin, and the bone marrow, wherein they generate certain types of cells. As what I have set an example on the liver. It only generates more liver cells. And for this pluripotent stem cell, these are adult stem cells that have been manipulated in a laboratory to take on pluripotent characteristics of embryonic stem cells. Again, when we say pluripotent, they can turn into a more one type of cell. Next, we have bone cell. So a bone is specialized connective tissue, and together with cartilage forms a strong and rigid endoskeleton. So here are some of the main function of the bone cell. Scaffold. So when we say scaffold, it's like they are strong together for muscle attachment, for locomotion, protection for vital organs and soft tissues. Example that I can give you is the ribs that protects our lungs, our heart. We have also reservoir of ions for the entire organism, especially calcium and phosphate. We have three different types of bone cells. We have osteoblast. So it is the bone lining cells. So what is the function of osteoblast? So osteoblasts synthesize bone matrix and coordinate the mineralization of the skeleton. Second, we have the osteoclasts are present on our bone surfaces and are derived from local mesenchymal cells called progenitor cell. So what is the function of the osteoclast? It initiates normal bone remodeling and mediate bone loss in pathologic condition by increasing their resorptive activity. Third is the osteocytes, which is permeate the interior of bone and are produced from the fusion of mononuclear blood-bone precursor cells. So what is the function of these osteocytes? They regulate passage of calcium into and out of our bone, and they respond to hormones by making special proteins that activate the osteoclasts. So we have now the third type of cell. We have the blood cell, also known as hematopoietic cell or hemocyte or hematocyte. And through this blood cell is being produced through the process called hematopoiesis. Again, other term for blood cell is hematopoietic, hemocyte, or hematocyte. And the process of blood formation is called hematopoiesis. When we say hema, means blood. Okay? And found, of course, mainly in our blood. So we have three types of blood cells. It includes the RBC, erythrocyte, WBC, the leukocytes, and platelets or thrombocytes. So let's discuss one by one. Red blood cell or erythrocyte. So primary carries oxygen and collects carbon dioxide through the use of hemoglobin. Okay, so what is hemoglobin? It is an iron-containing protein that gives red blood cells their color and facilitate the transport of oxygen from the lungs to the tissues and carbon dioxide from the tissues to the lungs. So RBCs are formed in the red bone marrow. So take note, RBCs or red blood cells are formed in the red bone marrow through the process hematopoietic stem cell in the process of erythropoiesis. Again, erythropoiesis, the process of RBC formation. So in adults, about 2.4 million RBC are produced each second. Right? So we have 2.4 million RBCs are produced each second. And RBC has a lifespan approximately of 100 to 120 days. So after they have completed their lifespan, they are removed from the bloodstream by the spleen. So once after 120 days, it is being removed by the spleen. So we have a condition wherein we have, if there is an increase or too many RBC, the medical terminology for this one is polycythemia. Poly means many. Polycythemia. So if there is an increase or more than the normal number of RBC, it's polycythemia. And if there is a low number of RBC, that is, of course, anemia already. Okay? So that's for the red blood cell. Now let's take a look on the white blood cell. So other term is the leukocytes, or cells of the immune system involved in defending the body against both infectious diseases and foreign materials. So white blood cells are divided into, let me write this, granulocytes. We also have agranulocytes. Okay, so distinguished by the presence and absence of granules in the cytoplasm. So when we say granulocytes, this includes, sorry about that. When we say granulocytes, these are the basophils, we also have eosinophils, we also have neutrophils, okay, and mast cells. If you experience already checking your blood in a laboratory and you receive the blood test, particularly the complete blood count test, you will see all of this stuff under the WBC. And for the agranulocytes, we have the lymphocytes, and we also have the monocytes. We repeat, for granulocytes, we have basophils, eosinophils, neutrophils, mast cell. For agranulocytes, we have the lymphocytes and monocytes. All of this one, the function is to defend the body against infectious diseases or any foreign bodies. So if there is few WBC or low WBC, the term for that one is leukopenia. Alright, so leukopenia for decrease in WBC, and if there is an increase in WBC, that is leukocytosis. Alright, there you go. So the lifespan of the WBC ranges from 13 to 20 days, and after which they are being destroyed by the lymphatic system. Alright, so that's for the WBC. Now for the platelets or the thrombocytes are very small, irregular shaped, clear cell fragment, 2 to 3 cubic meter in diameter, which derive from the fragmentation of megakaryocytes. So the average lifespan of platelet is 5 to 9 days. Alright, so platelets are a natural source of growth factors, so they circulate in the blood of mammals and are involved in hemostasis, leading to the formation of blood clot. Okay, and platelets release thread-like fibers to form these clots. And the normal range for platelet is around 150,000 to 450,000. It depends upon the hospital protocol. Cubic meter. Okay, so an abnormal or disease of platelets is called thrombocytopathy. Thrombocytopathy. Disease in platelets. Okay, so if there is a low in platelets, the term for that one is thrombocytopenia. Thrombocytopenia. So decrease in platelet, but if there is an increase in platelet, it is thrombocytosis. Alright, so thrombocytopathy, it is a disease in the platelets. If there is a decrease in platelets, thrombocytopenia, and we have increase in platelet, the term is thrombocytosis. And if there is a decreased function of platelet, the term for that one is thrombasthenia. Thrombasthenia. So this is decreased function of platelet. Decreased function of platelet. Alright, so that's for the platelet cells. So now let's move on the muscle cell, also known as myocyte. Alright, so it is a type of cell found in muscle tissue, and myocytes are long tubular cells that develop from myoblasts to form the muscles in the process known myogenesis. So this is the process to form muscles, myogenesis. So let's take a look. We have three types of muscle cells. We have the cardiac muscle cell found in the heart. We have the skeletal muscle cells found in the skeleton, and we have the smooth muscle cells, particularly on the digestive system. Next, we have the fat cell, a cell containing fat, also called as the adipocyte. Okay, so a fat cell or adipocyte is a connective tissue cell that has differentiated and becomes specialized in the synthesis or manufacture and storage of fat. So what are the function of fat cell? So for the function of the adipocyte or fat cells provide triglyceride to fuel much of our body's internal work and physical activity. What else? The layer of the fat under the skin insulates the body to keep us warm. It also pads of fat act as shock absorbers and support and cushion vital organs. For example, in our abdominal area, since there is no bone found in our abdominal area, so there is no bone to protect our internals. So the counterpart for that one is the fat cell. So fat also helps the body to use carbohydrate and protein. Fragments of fat metabolism combine with those of the glucose in energy metabolism. Another example is that fat spares protein for other important tasks by providing energy to our body. So those are the some functions of the fat cell. What are the types of fat cells? We have the white and brown adipose tissue. So white adipose tissue provides fat for other cells to use for energy. Brown adipose tissue, main function is to turn food into body heat, and it is sometimes called the good fat for the brown adipose tissue. Now we have the skin cell. So for skin cell, protective properties of human skin whose cells are generated continuously by the body serve as protective barrier between the inside of the human body and the environment. So let's take a look on the layers of the skin. So we have here the epidermis. I believe you are familiar with these layers of the skin. We have the derma. We have the hypodermis, and of course the subcutaneous layer. So those are the layers of the skin. So we have now types of skin cells. We have the keratinocytes here. so are sometimes known as the basal cells, to generate protein keratin, but are also important protecting the body by blocking toxins and pathogens and prevent loss of heat and moisture. So that's the function of the keratinocytes. Next, we have the melanocytes here part. So the role is to produce pigment, which is melanin that gives color to our skin. Okay, so that's the melanocyte. Next, we have the Langerhans cells. These are dendritic cells involved in antigen processing. When the skin becomes infected, they act as antigen processing cell. Merkel cells here. So these act as mechanosensory cells and are involved in touch reception, so the ability to feel. So whenever we touch our skin, Merkel cells is already responsible that sends signals to our brain. That's why we can feel already. So those are the types of cells. Next, we have the nerve cell, also known as the neurons. So transmits information throughout the body in the form of electrical signal or nerve impulses. So these are the structural body of neuron. We have the dendrites. When we say dendrites, these are projections of neuron or nerve cell that receive signals or information from the neurons. We have the cell body. When we say cell body, it is also called the soma. Other term for cell body. And it is a spherical part of the neuron that consists the nucleus, as you can see here in this image. The cell body connects the dendrites, which bring information to the neuron, and the axon, which sends information to other neurons. Next, we have the axon or the nerve fiber. So when we say axon, it is a long, slender projection of a nerve cell or neuron that conducts electrical impulse away from the neuron's cell body or soma. And of course, we have the axon terminals. So refers to the axon endings that are somewhat enlarged and often club or button shape, as you can see here in this image. Axon terminals are that part of the nerve cell that make synaptic connection with another nerve cell or with an effector cell. Example, the muscle cell or the gland cell. Next, we have the endothelial cells. So are the cells that are found in the linings of our blood vessels. So highly adaptable, being able to migrate and adjust their number and arrangement to accommodate the body needs. So whenever we are in fever, the endothelial cells will constrict. So kumbaga, when we say constrict, it will tighten. So more blood pressure or blood will rush. But if you are sweating, it will dilate. So the diameter will increase for the endothelial cell. And next, we have the sex cells. So sexual reproduction is the result of the fusion of two different types of cells called the gametes. Male sex cells are commonly known as the sperm cell or the spermatozoa. And of course, for the female gametes, also known as the eggs or the ova. And when they fuse together, fertilization occurs. A zygote is being formed already. And last, we have the cancer cells. So our cells that divide relentlessly, forming solid tumors or flooding the blood with abnormal cells. So relentlessly means it is a rapid increase. That's why they are forming solid tumors. So cancer develops when the body normal control mechanism starts working. So those are the types of cells. Now move on the fourth level. We have the tissue level. So an organism's body is a masterpiece of timing and organization. So its many cell works together to keep a complex organism alive. So to help accomplish this task, the cell that make up an organism are organized into tissues. So for example, the muscle tissue can contract to move different parts of the organism's body. So when you focus your eyes on this page, you are using your muscle tissue. So there are 4 categories of the tissues. In these categories, there are tissues like bone, the blood, the skin, and the fats. So by definition, tissues are the group of similar cells working together to perform the same function. So we have the four types: the muscle tissue, the epithelial, the nervous tissue, and the connective tissue. So muscle tissue, its job is to contract and relax, allowing the body to move, can be controlled voluntarily and involuntarily. So under muscle tissue, we have three groups. We have the skeletal muscles that are attached in our skeleton, smooth lines different organs that contracts to move fluids, and of course the cardiac tissue found only in the heart. So the common examples of this one are the heart, the lungs, and the small intestines. Nervous tissue, the function is to carry electrical messages between the brain and other parts of the body. Examples are the brain cells and the nerve cells. Next, we have the connective tissue. Its function is to provide support for our body and connects all its parts. Examples are the bone tissue, the fat tissue. Epithelial tissue, the function is inside and outside coverings that protects the structures beneath. So as you can see here in this image, we have the skin, we have the lining of the digestive system for epithelial tissue. Alright, next is the organ level. So just as cells join together to form tissues, different types of tissues combine to form organs. So an organ is a group of different tissues with a specific job, such as the heart, the stomach, the brain, are familiar examples of organs that can be found in many different organisms. Did you know that the eye, skin, tongue are also organs? The heart is an example of an organ made up of 4 different types of tissues, and all 4 tissues types work together to enable the heart to pump blood throughout the organism. So the organ level or organization is when 2 or more tissues work together for a specific function. For example, our gallbladder. So it consists of an inner lining epithelial tissue bound by various connective tissues such as the smooth muscle tissue. Throughout the bladder, there are also neurons that control the muscle tissue, directing it to contract or relax during urination reflexes. That's the organ level. Next is for the system level. So a group of organs that work together to perform major functions. So many times, a complicated organ like the heart is not adequate enough to perform a series of specialized jobs within the organism. So in this case, an organ system is needed. An organ system is a group of organs that work together to perform a specific job. For example, your body can work as it does because it is made up of many organ systems such as the skeletal, muscular, circulatory, and digestive system. Although each system performs a special function for the organism's body, no one system acts alone. So let's have an overview of the body system. So for the cardiovascular, transports nutrients to cell, eliminates waste. Digestive, breaks down and absorbs nutrients, eliminates waste. Endocrine, hormones to control organ function. Excretory, eliminates waste from the body. Lymphatic, works with immune to protect body against the foreign microorganism. Musculoskeletal, gives body support and allows it to move. Nervous, controls body movement, decision-making, and memories, relies information throughout the body. Reproductive, responsible for sexual reproduction. Respiratory, takes in oxygen and takes out carbon dioxide. So this is an overview of the different body system for the integumentary, for the skeletal system. There. Let's take a look on other system. We have the muscular and the nervous system. There. Next, we have the endocrine system, the cardiovascular system, we have lymphatic system. Then we have here the respiratory system. All right. We also have the digestive system. the urinary system, and we also have male reproductive system and female reproductive system. So though these are an overview of the different body systems of a human. Okay, then the last level is of course the living organism or the organism. So living entity produced as a result of multiple different organ system working together. So everyone in this classroom or in this session is an organism, as we have multiple different organ system working together to produce us. So the organism level is the highest level of organization in this level or body organization. So an organism is a living being that has a cellular structure that can independently perform all physiologic function necessary for life. In multicellular organism, including humans, all cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems of the body work together to maintain the life and health of the organism. Each organ system contribute to the constant teamwork that keeps the organism alive, and the different organ systems work together and depend on one another to maintain homeostasis or balance. As what I presented earlier, no body system can work alone. A complex organism is composed of cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems, and the interaction among these levels of organization enable the organism to carry out its life processes. So that's for the body organization for week 3. So just to share you, all body systems work hand in hand to keep us alive. Without one, we cannot function well and we will die or go extinct. So as we've learned, our bodies are complicated systems made up of cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. In order for life to function properly, however, these systems must work together. Organs often perform roles in multiple systems due to their unique functions. The human body is actually an amazing coalition of many different systems that work together to keep everything functioning correctly. Example, some systems handle food and energy while others focus on taking in oxygen and moving it around the body. By learning about the different systems work inside our body, you can understand how everything works together to keep you healthy, growing, and strong. So thank you for listening with our 3rd week session for Fundamentals of Health Science 2. Should you have any questions, feel free to contact us through Facebook Messenger or through LMS. Have a great day!